There's a particular type of man who drives women absolutely crazy, not in the frustrated or annoying way, but in a way that creates genuine fascination, obsession, and an almost magnetic pull that's difficult to explain or resist. These aren't the men who chase attention, who broadcast their achievements on social media, who constantly seek validation, or who make grand gestures to prove their worth. In fact, they're the exact opposite. They're the men who seem completely unbothered by whether women notice them or not, who live according to their own internal compass, regardless of social approval, who maintain mysterious depth that can't be easily categorized or predicted, and who trigger something primal in female psychology that most modern dating advice completely misses. If you've ever wondered why some men seem effortlessly attractive to women while others struggle despite doing everything the dating coaches tell them to do, understanding the Sigma male's appeal reveals uncomfortable truths about attraction, desire, and what actually makes a man irresistible versus what we're told should make him attractive. This isn't about pickup artist tricks or manipulation tactics or performing alpha male behaviors. This is about fundamental psychological dynamics that operate below conscious awareness, creating attraction so powerful it can feel almost addictive to women who encounter it. The Sigma male's appeal to women starts with something that seems counterintuitive, but turns out to be psychologically powerful beyond measure: his genuine indifference to female approval. Most men, whether they admit it or not, organize significant portions of their behavior around attracting and impressing women. They choose clothes with an awareness of how women will perceive them. They cultivate hobbies and interests, partially because those things might be attractive to women. They monitor their social media presence, thinking about how potential partners will judge them. They tell stories and share accomplishments with an underlying motivation to demonstrate value to women. They adjust their opinions and interests to align with what they think women want to hear. This isn't necessarily conscious manipulation. For most men, it's so deeply ingrained they don't even notice they're doing it, but it creates a subtle energy of need, of seeking validation, of performing for approval. Women pick up on this energy instantly, even when they can't articulate exactly what they're sensing. It reads as neediness, as weakness, as a man who doesn't fully believe in his own value and therefore requires external confirmation. The Sigma male operates from a completely different foundation. He genuinely doesn't need female approval to feel good about himself. He doesn't construct his identity around whether women find him attractive. He doesn't make decisions based on how they'll be perceived by potential partners. He's not performing masculinity or trying to demonstrate value because his sense of worth comes entirely from internal sources. This creates an energy that women find absolutely magnetic because it's so rare. When a woman encounters a man who genuinely doesn't need her approval, it triggers something psychologically fascinating. Throughout her life, she's dealt with men who wanted something from her, whether that's attention, validation, sex, a relationship, or just the ego boost of having an attractive woman interested in them. She's developed sophisticated radar for detecting this neediness, and she's learned to be somewhat dismissive of it because it's so universal and therefore has no value. Need is common, indifference is rare. When she meets a Sigma male who treats her the same way he treats everyone else, who doesn't adjust his behavior to impress her, who doesn't seem to care whether she's attracted to him or not, it creates immediate intrigue. Her usual power, the power of potentially granting or withholding romantic and sexual interest, suddenly doesn't work. The tools she's used her entire life to manage male attention simply bounce off him. This isn't because he's rude or dismissive. He can be perfectly friendly and engaging, but there's no undercurrent of wanting something from her. This creates a unique psychological dynamic where she finds herself working for his attention and approval in ways she never does with other men. The normal script is flipped. Usually men pursue and women select. With the Sigma male, she finds herself wondering what he thinks of her, whether he finds her interesting, why he doesn't seem affected by her the way other men are. And this dynamic taps into fundamental aspects of human psychology around scarcity and value. We assign higher value to things that are rare and difficult to obtain. When something is easily available and constantly offered to us, we devalue it. Women, particularly attractive women, are constantly offered male attention, interest, and pursuit. It's abundant to the point of being overwhelming, and sometimes exhausting. The Sigma male's indifference represents scarcity in a landscape of abundance. He becomes the thing she can't easily have, which makes him infinitely more interesting than the dozens of men actively competing for her attention. This isn't about playing hard to get or using manipulative tactics. The Sigma male isn't performing indifference to create attraction. He genuinely doesn't need her validation, and that authenticity is precisely what makes it so powerful. Women have highly developed abilities to detect inauthenticity in male behavior because they've been dealing with male performance their entire lives. They can spot a guy pretending not to care from a mile away, but they can't detect pretense in the Sigma male because there isn't any. His indifference is real, rooted in genuine self-sufficiency and internal validation, and that realness creates attraction that no amount of technique or strategy could manufacture. The mystery factor amplifies this attraction exponentially. Most men are fairly easy to figure out and predict. They broadcast their intentions, motivations, insecurities, and desires pretty clearly through their behavior. They seek validation in obvious ways. They compete for status in visible hierarchies. They perform their identity openly. The Sigma male is fundamentally mysterious because he operates from internal motivations that aren't visible to external observation. He doesn't broadcast his achievements, so you can't easily assess his status. He doesn't perform his identity, so you can't quickly categorize him. He doesn't explain himself or justify his choices, so you can't easily understand his value system. He reveals himself slowly and selectively, if at all. This mystery creates what psychologists call an information gap, and human brains are compelled to close information gaps. When we encounter something or someone we can't quite figure out, our brains become obsessed with gathering more information to complete the picture. For women encountering a Sigma male, this manifests as constant thinking about him, analyzing his behavior for clues, wanting to spend more time with him to understand him better, and generally becoming mentally preoccupied in ways that feel almost addictive. The mystery is particularly potent because it suggests depth. Most people are fairly shallow in the sense that what you see is basically what you get. Their public persona closely matches their private reality. The Sigma male's guardedness and selectivity about what he reveals suggests there's much more beneath the surface, hidden depths that most people never get to see. This creates a challenge that many women find irresistible, the desire to be the one who breaks through, who gets access to the hidden parts, who becomes special enough to see what others don't. It's similar to the appeal of a locked door or a wrapped present. The mystery of what's inside creates desire to discover it. The difference is that with the Sigma male, the mystery isn't a marketing tactic or deliberate strategy. It's just how he naturally operates. He's private because he doesn't feel compelled to broadcast his inner life. He's selective because he doesn't form connections easily or superficially. He has depth because he spends time in introspection and development rather than in constant social performance. All of this combines to create a puzzle that women find themselves compulsively trying to solve. The Sigma male's emotional independence creates another dimension of attraction that operates powerfully on female psychology. Most men are emotionally dependent in ways they don't recognize or admit. They need external validation to maintain self-esteem. They need relationship success to feel valuable. They need sexual conquest to feel masculine. They need social approval to feel secure. This emotional dependency manifests in relationships as neediness, jealousy, constant requirement for reassurance, inability to be comfortable alone, and general emotional fragility that requires careful management. Women often find themselves in caretaker roles with emotionally dependent men, managing their egos, providing constant validation, walking on eggshells around their insecurities, and generally carrying emotional labor that becomes exhausting over time. The Sigma male's emotional independence is the opposite of all this. He doesn't need a relationship to feel complete. He doesn't need constant reassurance about his worth. He's comfortable alone and doesn't require a partner to manage his emotional state. He takes responsibility for his own happiness rather than outsourcing it to a relationship. This emotional independence is incredibly attractive to women for several reasons. First, it removes the burden of emotional caretaking that they're used to carrying in relationships with other men. Being with someone who doesn't need you to manage their emotions is profoundly refreshing. Second, it demonstrates strength in a way that's more compelling than any physical display or status achievement. Emotional self sufficiency requires genuine internal development that can't be faked. Third, it creates security rather than threatening it. Many women worry that a man's neediness means he's only with her to fill a void, that he doesn't actually value her specifically, but rather needs any woman to complete him. The Sigma male's lack of neediness suggests that if he chooses to be with someone, it's because he genuinely wants that specific person, not because he needs anyone to feel whole. This creates a different kind of security, the security of being chosen rather than needed. Fourth, his emotional independence means he won't be devastated or broken if she leaves, which paradoxically makes her less likely to want to leave. The man who can survive and thrive without her is more attractive than the man who would fall apart, even though conventional wisdom suggests women want to feel needed. The Sigma male's authenticity and congruence between his private and public self creates trust and attraction in ways that conventional masculine performance simply cannot. Most people, and most men in particular, show different versions of themselves in different contexts. They're one person with friends, another with family, another at work, another on dates. They adjust their opinions, interests, humor, and entire personality based on their audience and what they think that audience wants to see. Women learn early to be suspicious of this performance because they never know which version is real or if any version is authentic. They've experienced men who are charming and attentive during courtship, but become completely different people once the relationship is established. They've dated men who performed interests and values they didn't actually hold to seem more attractive. The Sigma male's consistency across contexts, his refusal to perform different versions of himself for different audiences, his willingness to express his authentic opinions and interests regardless of whether they're impressive or socially acceptable, creates a sense that what you see is what you get. This reliability and authenticity builds deep trust. Women also find the Sigma male's self-direction and purpose deeply attractive. Most men either drift through life reacting to circumstances and doing what's expected of them, or they pursue conventional markers of success without deeper purpose. They chase money, status, and achievements because that's what men are supposed to do, not because these things connect to genuine purpose or passion. The Sigma male typically has clear direction that comes from internal values rather than external expectations. He knows what matters to him and structures his life around those priorities. He pursues goals that might not make sense to others, but are meaningful to him. He's willing to sacrifice conventional success for authentic purpose. This sense of direction and purpose is magnetic to women because it suggests strength, clarity, and the kind of leadership that's about knowing where you're going rather than dominating others. Women are attracted to men with purpose not because they want to be followers, but because purposeful people create interesting lives, and joining someone on a purposeful journey is more appealing than drifting aimlessly together. The Sigma male's competence across multiple domains without needing to broadcast it creates quiet confidence that's far more attractive than loud self-promotion. Most men who are good at something make sure everyone knows it. They find ways to work their achievements into conversation. They post about their successes on social media. They seek recognition and validation for their competence. The Sigma male develops genuine competence in areas that interest him, but he doesn't need to advertise it. You discover his capabilities gradually, through observation rather than through his self-promotion. He might be incredibly knowledgeable about something, but you only find out when the topic naturally arises, and he casually demonstrates expertise without fanfare. He might have impressive achievements, but you learn about them from others, or by accident, rather than from him telling you. This quiet competence is far more impressive than loud self-promotion because it suggests he's developed skills for their own sake, rather than for external validation. The challenge and growth potential that comes with being involved with a Sigma male creates a different kind of attraction than comfort or security. Many relationships, particularly long-term ones, become comfortable and safe, but also stagnant. Partners stop growing because they're not challenged. The Sigma male's high standards, both for himself and for those close to him, creates natural pressure to level up. He's not interested in someone who's content being mediocre or who wants to coast through life. He respects competence, growth, authenticity, and depth. Being with him creates implicit expectation to be better. to develop yourself, to pursue your own purpose rather than just existing. For women who are ambitious and growth-oriented, this is incredibly attractive. It's the opposite of the guy who's threatened by her success and wants her to stay small. The Sigma male wants a partner who's evolving and challenging themselves because he finds stagnation boring. The Sigma male's selectivity about who he allows into his life makes being chosen by him feel genuinely valuable. Most men will date or sleep with almost any woman who's reasonably attractive and available. Their standards are low because their neediness is high. Being desired by these men doesn't feel particularly special because they desire lots of women. The Sigma male is genuinely selective, not as a strategy, but because he'd rather be alone than with someone who doesn't meet his standards. He has specific criteria around compatibility, values, intelligence, authenticity, and he's willing to remain single indefinitely rather than compromise. This means that when he does choose someone, it carries real weight. She knows she's not just any available woman. She's someone who met standards that most people don't meet. She's been selected by someone who's highly selective, which creates a sense of value and specialness that's intoxicating. The freedom he offers is equally addictive. Most men want to possess and control their partners to varying degrees. They're jealous, they're insecure about her having male friends, they want constant updates on where she is and what she's doing. They require frequent reassurance about the relationship. This controlling behavior, even when it comes from insecurity rather than malice, is suffocating. The Sigma male's emotional security means he doesn't need to control his partner. He trusts himself to be fine regardless of what happens, which paradoxically makes him more able to trust her. He's not threatened by her having her own life, interests, and friendships. He doesn't need to monitor her constantly or limit her freedom to feel secure. This creates breathing room in the relationship that's incredibly refreshing. The irony is that this freedom and lack of possessiveness often makes women less likely to stray or take advantage because she's getting something so rare, a relationship without suffocation. Understanding why Sigma males are addictive to women ultimately reveals that attraction operates according to psychological principles that often contradict common dating advice and cultural narratives about what women want. Women are told they want confident, successful, socially dominant men who pursue them actively and demonstrate their value clearly. The Sigma male often appears to be none of these things on the surface. He's not obviously confident in performative ways. He's not necessarily conventionally successful. He's not socially dominant. He doesn't pursue women actively, yet he creates attraction that's more powerful and sustainable than men who check all the conventional boxes. This is because real attraction isn't about performing the right behaviors or achieving the right status markers. It's about psychological dynamics that operate below conscious awareness. The scarcity of genuine indifference in a world of male neediness. The mystery of depth in a world of shallow performance. The security of emotional independence in a world of dependent men. The trust that comes from authenticity in a world of performance. The excitement of purpose in a world of drifting. The value of selectivity in a world where male attention is abundant and therefore worthless. The freedom that comes from security in a world of possessiveness and control. The Sigma male isn't addictive because he's using techniques or strategies. He's addictive because he's genuinely become the kind of man that female psychology responds to at the deepest levels, and that authenticity is precisely what makes it impossible to replicate through performance or pretense.